This episode, we are full on spoilers for both the books and the show.
Hey everyone, I'm Jen.
And I'm the Geeky Hippie. Welcome back to What the Adaptation, the YouTube show that reviews adaptations from one format to another. This week, we're continuing with Season 3 of The Expanse. And to help us, we've got two guests. Mitch, you made it this week. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
And we have returning guest, Roofmistress Leigh. She's been on a number of times to discuss The Expanse. How you doing, Leigh?
So excited for this. It's literally been what I've been thinking about all day and all weekend and the past week.
I can understand. Good to hear. Good to hear. So, Max, what episode are we talking about?
Episode 2, IFF. Directed by last week's episode, Brett Eisner. And written by Mark Fergus, Ty Frank, and Daniel Abraham, who are basically the writers for the series.
Pretty
And
much.
stuff happens this episode.
Yeah.
And it drags on the first half, and then it gets a little more action-packed near the end.
Mhm.
Really action-packed.
Yeah.
What did everyone think of this week's episode?
Cliffhanger galore. I love it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to see what happens when she wakes up. No, I'm playing. I really liked this episode. I liked it better than the previous episode. Actually, it's kind of rare, isn't it? So when like a season opens and then the second episode is like better than like the first episode of the season, to me that happened. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but yeah, I liked it. I'll cede the floor.
So when I first watched this episode a couple days ago, I was just like, really? I was totally book cloaking it because I I'm in, like, I'm almost done with a re-listen of the books, and I was like, that's not how it happened, and that's not what it worked. And it took like watching it, thinking about it, and then going back and re-watching, and I was like, oh yeah, this is so cool, like so fucking badass. Like it took me a minute to get out of like, that's not what happened in the books at all. And for later discussion, but I think this is one of the biggest departures from the books so far. But in good, interesting ways. So like little nuggets for thoughts for later.
Yeah, that's very true. This episode actually has very little to do with the books themselves. The reason why they're on the Razorback is, or the method by which they got on the Razorback, completely different. The method by which they get off the Razorback is completely different. So they
and Anna,
they have definitely deviated from the story itself.
Season 3 does a lot of deviation. I've reread book 3 twice in the past month just because it was something that I could listen to as I'm falling asleep, and I'd rewind, to where I'd where before I'd fallen asleep and continue from there. And watching season 3, it does a lot of, let's tell this story by having it be the opposite way it is in the book, but it's still the same story at heart,
Yes.
And it's season 3 is a lot of 180s from the book, but still managing to pull off the book somehow, the story. So,
Well, in many respects, I think, as is the general rule with the show versus book, the show tends to be far more exciting simply because they're condensing down so much from the story into smaller nuggets. But in this particular case, there was the smaller nuggets were a standalone joy to watch. As far as the entire episode in the Razorback was fantastic.
Yeah. I love the Razorback in this show. It looks
Yeah.
so good.
Me too.
Needs
So
to
what's
turn
up
into
first,
a
Max?
carnival ride.
Yeah,
Well, that-
it would be a good carnival ride.
Oh yeah.
Literally.
This-
That'd be like that's theme park level. Just
Disney had something similar for a little while, and they had to close down the ride. I think it was like Mission Space or whatever they have.
Mission
I'm
to
gonna-
Mars. It was Mission to Mars. Yeah.
Yes.
It was an Mhm. Yep,
And,
I've been there. Well, and there was warnings like if you have
Yes.
conditions, do not get on this because whatever they did, it was intense. I loved it.
It was very intense. A lot of
Would
people
put you through
could not
high
handle
G.
it.
A lot of high G.
It was more just spinny spin, kind of like
Like
and then-
a lot of shaking, a lot of moving. Yeah, but
yeah,
like,
they
yeah.
had something like that, and a lot of people couldn't handle it. Yeah, it was funny.
And
I
again,
remember when I was-
lots of warnings. Like, do not get on this if you have like
Mild
the list is
asthma.
long.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, they can be pretty intense.
Mhm.
So, what's
There's a
our
lot.
first question of the day, Max?
What was changed from source and did those changes impact your enjoyment of this episode?
What was it? I'm sorry.
What was changed from the source material and did those changes impact your enjoyment of the episode?
The vast majority of it.
Yeah,
Probably
it's easier to
take
say.
what wasn't- Yeah.
Yeah, about the one thing is they went from that Bobby and Avasarala went from the Guanxian and ended up on the Rocinante.
Mhm.
And that's about it in this. But did
Mhm.
that change my enjoyment? No. Like Mitch pointed out, it's more exciting. It's a
Yeah.
very exciting and much more dramatic of an app. You know, this show's really good at adding drama.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, and in
Sometimes
addition,
unneeded.
the big ad is anything that's happening off of the Rossi or the Razorback. Obviously everything that's occurring on IO is not in the book.
Fresh.
And as a separate
Well,
story,
it's off
that-
screen. It's off screen in the book.
right?
Yeah.
It's all off book, as it were.
Off,
or
off the page. Yeah.
Right.
off page. Yeah, that's the word. It is something that the books lack, which is just so important to the video story that's being presented. And I'm so glad they decided to do that, because if everything was from the point of views that we get in the book, it wouldn't have worked at all.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Mhm.
We'd have had to wait until later in the season to get Anna. And I love Anna Volodova.
Oh,
I actually think I like Anna on the show more than Pastor Anna in the book.
I think it gives her different context because in the books
Yeah.
she's just this very humble pastor on a moon somewhere, and this gives her she earns the credence based off of what happens again, like future books, future episodes. This gives her the credence beforehand and the foundation of like, we need to trust her because the Secretary General trusts her, and she stands up to power. Yeah, like so, like
Right off the bat.
I wasn't always like, I'm not necessarily. I like it and I don't like it all at the same times. Like, I like just being able to come up from humble beginnings and be able to literally change the face of an entire situation. But I also like that, like, giving her the badass where she's just going to like tell the entire government to go fuck themselves. So I like both of them. I like both versions of her so much.
To the Secretary General's face, pretty much, too.
And
and her
Right.
introduction.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That opening with her.
I mean, she
she
immediately sees a problem, she solves the problem. And so I thought that was a very nice touch.
And she just
And
snaps
takes
at
the cloud
people and she's
upside
like,
the head for it, too.
It's just like, it like snaps, and she's like, no, this is not how we're doing it. We're going to be better. We're all going to be better.
Mhm.
And
I
she
can't
makes
imagine anybody else playing the role like Elizabeth Mitchell. So
she's so
I like her in
Yeah.
so many things. Yeah. I was like, oh,
I've actually been in lust with her for years.
yeah, she's
yeah,
beautiful.
I've got a pretty big crush on her
Same.
too. So
same
she's
friend, same.
beautiful.
and
Mhm.
it's
Well,
just
physically
especially
and
in this role.
emotionally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
sure.
how do
Yep.
you not love the entirety of her? Yeah.
Mhm.
I'd say
She
like
comes off like she gives the world's best hugs.
for me, like that part of the episode was like dragged a lot. Even though
The
her
stuff with
acting
her-
was great, even though that was
Yeah.
great, that whole section I could have done without it, just because it dragged the whole episode out.
Mhm.
It's because it's in contrast to the action going on in space.
Yeah.
So,
But it makes a perfect dichotomy, because if you had so much action all the time,
Oh, yeah.
that would just be overwhelming. So having
Yeah.
some of these like calming and also world building scenes, like it's really masterfully done.
Just needed more Amos.
can always use more Amos. That will bring up later on. I do have a complaint, and it's about as bad as my complaint with airlock doors sliding together.
Oh,
Um,
I think I know what you're gonna say, and I'm not on board with their slide, but I think I know what you're talking about, and I think I'm on board.
Which
with it.
one? I want to
Yeah,
hear it
we'll-
now.
we'll-
Let's approach, because it is a change from the books. It is a change from the books. What I'm looking at.
Oh,
I'm looking. It's the structure of the design inside the Rosie, where Amos and Prax were sitting
Yeah.
during the combat.
Mm-hmm.
They should have been their backs to the engines, so that whenever there was thrust, they would be pushed back, not pushed sideways in their chair.
Well,
A high
this is
thrust would have ripped them right out of that chair.
This is also something that the show does just visually. The books have crash couches where you're in
Yeah.
this cushion
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
moves around.
Hey,
Mm-hmm.
Also, what I thought you were going to say is that Prax had his
Yes,
air
thank you.
connector.
That's what I was
Um,
going to
that
say.
design too.
He would have had his own air supply and not have been reliant on the ship systems, because the point of a warship
Yeah.
is you're probably going to take a round at some point and you need to have your own air supply. That's what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is one of my. It's not as big as the whole thrust thing, but yeah, it is. And it wouldn't be way back behind his back. It would be down where he can get at it.
I thought you were going to
I would think, because in an emergency, getting at your hose connection for the
Mhm.
air,
Yeah,
say
you
underneath
wanna-
the seat you're sitting in or
something
next to
that-
you.
Like
Way back
natural,
here.
like a natural movement
Yeah.
where it's where your hand is. So as I'm moving my hand, it's like right here down where one of my dresser drawers is. It's not behind your head where you have to figure out how to maneuver and you can't see, like that's not a natural position.
Yeah,
I thought you were going to say how Amos was fixing Prax's, and then he got it. Well, Amos's air was still detached himself, and then Prax is like, "Thank you." He's like, "No problem," as he answers him. Normally.
Yeah, where the fuck did Amos's air come from?
And
As
I'm like,
he's moving around.
"Oh my god!"
it's a
I thought
really
you were
long hose.
I thought you were
It-
talking
it
about
gets-
that part, and I was like,
Gets back to the entire part of the problem. Like, where is your fucking air supply? Like, why? You cannot be connected.
Yeah,
Well, and the other thing that got me with that is when Prax's air supply or the hose pops off,
mhm.
the air escapes from his suit for a very long,
time. Thank you.
Well, and also they still had air, and they hadn't been penetrated, so they hadn't vacated the air. So he would have
I
still.
think they did say they were. I think Holden get a line that they were going to be evacuating the air.
Yeah.
You,
And
but
they
you
always-
wouldn't.
in 5 minutes or something like that.
Right. And you
Tactically-
always want to. You always
You-
want to in a battle, because if you're penetrated, you don't want explosive force going through a hole into space. So you
That's fair.
want to
Okay,
be
that's fair.
in
And you
vacuum.
want to pull all that air into a storage tank, so that if you do, even, if you do, whether it's explosive or not, you're not losing that air unless it happens to go through the storage tanks.
Right.
Yeah.
Which,
Makes
if that happens, you're fucked anyways.
Yeah, air is precious.
Yes.
Especially in
That's why I hate those airlock doors that slide together. It's like an elevator door with rubber stoppers. Like you go to the grocery store and the door slides open and then close right behind you. I'm just like, but yeah. Jen hadn't gotten to hear me complain about that yet.
No, this is the first time hearing it, but I'm smiling because it's definitely a you complaint, and I love those. You're always here
Blend
for
pedantism.
things. Yes, I enjoy that. I'm like, oh yes, I've missed this. Yeah,
Pretty sure it's probably come up on every episode, some way or another.
A number of them, yes.
Gotcha.
At least the
Which is fine.
airlocks.
We're totally fine. Hey, you know what? It's been consistent, and that's why we love you.
Thank you.
Back to the episode.
Yeah.
The orbits are all
Right.
wrong.
Yeah, I don't know orbital mechanics, so I'm not going to be pedantic about that.
So Chris is watching this with me, and he is like his entire life, like every single day, he's on NASA's website and he does like research, and he's that's what he does with all of his free time, is do space researching and stuff. Like, it was funny because like he hasn't read any of the book and he's just watching the show with me, and they're putting out different stuff. Even before he heard it, he goes, oh, that's Io, just by looking at him. Like, did they do a good job?
Mhm.
Yes, they did a very good job. And then other things he doesn't talk about, he was like, no, wait a minute, like, because he didn't understand how things were in the book. And originally when like that, the whole thing, like how that crashed into Venus. Oh my God, the entire, when Eros was doing that, he goes, how could the center of gravity shifted? He goes, there's only two ways. There's only two ways that it could have missed. Two ways. Like, okay. He goes, how that Nabu could have missed. He goes, the center of gravity had to have shifted. I'm like, yes. He goes, that's not possible on something that's that size that quickly. It
That's
can't
the
happen that
point.
quickly.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Yes.
I'm like,
Yes.
like, that's
Yeah.
what I had to explain to him, like, no, it's a part of the thing. And then he goes, okay. But it was funny because not even having read it, he completely understood just how much of a miraculous thing that was in his own way. So that was pretty cool. He really liked the Razorback, by the way. When he saw it, he goes like that. He really enjoyed it. He goes, oh my God, I'd give anything to ride in that.
But
I'm going
what you
to.
just said is like the way Chris interpreted things, that that is in the show, and not having read the books, it's such a testament to the show that you're like, that, like, he's picking up on the things that are in a lot of the deep subtext, and like us book readers are like, oh yeah, of course.
The number
obviously.
one thing he doesn't like is the rail guns. He was like, you'd have to be very, 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 very close to your target, because in space it would just go.
Oh, the
Like
the
fact that the
PDCs?
rail guns are like,
Yeah.
he's like,
Well, and-
that really wouldn't work unless you were
That's-
really, really close to proximity. And I guess you were
that's
just
why
like
they're called
blowing pulse,
point.
but-
They're called
Yeah.
point defense.
Yeah.
They're called point defense
Yeah.
cannons for a reason, and I can say
Yeah.
this because military, like naval ships, actually have a very similar thing called the CWIS, close-in weapon system, and it does the exact same function, and it's only like nothing else has worked, and you're just like, I just need to blow something up that's getting close to me, and I have nothing else to do it. So it's the same exact function.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 100 yards, and that's about as efficient as they're ever going to be.
And
Yeah.
100
Well,
yards
and-
is like
and- well,
less than a
and-
second in travel
and they-
time.
They spray a wide array, so you're not just like point targeting, you're just
Right.
Yeah.
doing a massive, like, it's probably going to be here somewhere, and this is where I'm going to throw a
They
lot
look cool
of-
though.
They look really cool, yeah.
They do.
So
Oh.
the CWIS when it fires.
PDCs do have the rule of cool going for them.
Oh,
It just
exactly.
my concern with PDCs is that those slugs don't stop. There's every single slug. 30 years later, every single slug that the Rossi ever fired is still
It's going
flying through
somewhere.
space at the
Mhm.
exact same speed,
Mm-hmm.
and they aren't easy to pick up on sensors. And it's astronomical chances, but you know, it's always possible somebody could get hold with one of those just out of the nowhere, flying along, minding their own business.
Yeah, well, it's very much like being at sea, and how often is a boat going to run into another boat or a ship into a ship?
Yeah.
It's so vast, it's difficult.
Well, but it's similar, but it's different because you're just launching. Like again, rereading the books and getting a little ahead of ourselves. But when they just start launching rocks, and there's multiple times in the future books where this happens, where they launch rocks years ahead of time, like months ahead of time, knowing where it's going to go. Like those are going to eventually hit a target. So like if you're in the middle of a city and you fire a gun up in the air, yeah, you're not blowing somebody's head off immediately, but at some point that bullet's going to come back down. And it's and I understand.
And if
what
it
you're
hits
saying about,
somebody,
fuck, like you didn't mean to do it, but it's a natural consequence of that happening.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought of that before, and now my brain is just gonna go fucking crazy. Thanks. Fuck you guys.
Those PDCs are scary, man. They keep going.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is that with orbital mechanics and the planets and the asteroids and all moving around constantly, there's no fixed shipping lanes.
Nope.
The lanes change as the orbits progress. So, yeah, PDCs flying around just having a good old time could be a problem.
And these are all in the orbit of Jupiter, because this is right outside of Jupiter's moons. So, like, Jupiter is not populated, Jupiter is not colonized, but there are other moons of Jupiter, Ganymede being one of them, obviously, that do have populations on them. I think several of Jupiter's moons in the expanse are colonized.
All right. Yeah.
There's another thing that the authors do that the show has gone back and forth on, and the book has gone back and forth on. There's no real consistency, and it's another one of those Glenn pedantisms. Are they missiles or are they torpedoes? Because as far as I understand, a torpedo travels through water. Missiles travel through vacuum or air. And they keep calling them torpedoes.
Okay, so...
And I know Star Trek did it back in the day, too.
So I think it's the way it's launched that and again, I think they're misusing the terms, especially because missile... I'm in the Navy. I work for the Navy. Right. I work with things in the Navy, and it's very fascinating to me that your question, because I've thought about this as well. So, and I think the use of torpedo is typically it's not physically launched, like it gets dropped and then it moves on its own propulsion, whereas a missile is physically launched on, like it's a rocket. It moves under its own propulsion from the start. So while torpedoes and missiles do sometimes have a lot of the same characteristics, I think it's how torpedoes just get dumped and then go, whereas missiles are physically propelled out.
I didn't know that about torpedoes.
Yeah. Well, and also if you think about it, missiles typically have an initial ignition sequence that gets them up to speed going towards target.
Depends on the type of missile. Depends on the type of missile, and torpedoes also do have the same issue. Yeah.
Right, but if we're talking about something that's going a long distance, a missile is typically going to use up most of its fuel early on. I mean, yes, you have the glide missiles and so on, but typically they're, you launch them and they have a set trajectory, ballistic missiles, for example. Torpedoes, on the other hand, need to be powered the entire way because of the sheer resistance of going through water. So they need to be powered the entire time to the target.
Mm.
Yeah.
Water heavy.
Yeah.
Pretty heavy.
Water is hard
So, should we get to
That's
our
what
at
she
high
said.
velocities.
That's what she said. Sorry. I'm a child. You guys know this.
It's
I have
okay.
no filter.
Yes,
I
that's
know
why we
filter.
have you on.
Like I said, should we get to our second question?
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, and another thing that in this episode was very explicitly demonstrated was they launched multiple torpedoes, and many of them flipped and burned and stayed with the Razorback.
That was,
So
I love that.
yeah, and
It's not in the books at all, but I loved it.
actually, it does happen several times in the books. So
When?
like it. Oh,
I'll have to
it
pay
wasn't.
attention.
No, it was not in this instance. There was. I just read this.
Doesn't matter. Well, I'll
Press
find
the
it. I'll find it.
Press the I believe button, but there were times where the missiles. Oh, well, I mean, the initial when they were stealing the missiles, the Belters were stealing the missiles from
Oh,
arrows.
okay.
But also there were times that missiles. Oh, I don't know. It was trying to remember because I didn't re-listen
don't
to
go-
this.
it-
Like,
Past this book. If it's past this book, don't bring it up because Jen hasn't read to that yet.
okay,
I'm
but,
I wanna get
but there,
go
it.
and watching as I go both. So I have not made
It-
it past.
it
this-
definitely happens that missiles are keeping
Flying around like that.
Yeah,
Formation.
and I think this episode, the past episode, and the next episode bring in a lot of interesting elements from the books, from future things that happen without having to go in depth into
Right.
what's going on. And I love that they're pulling stuff from the future parts of the books without breaking the sequence of the story. So like the missiles keeping guard are amazing, and they peel off as needed to protect the Racerback.
Yeah. What's next, Max?
So our second question tonight is your favorite scenes or dialogues as part of your scenes.
Oh, have a bunch.
Let's start with you, Matt. Then Mitch.
Pardon me. Just a little quickie. Right at the beginning of the show, you have Strickland bringing May out of her little pod. And I just love how he goes from being that smiling, happy guy to the moment the nurse takes her away and his face changes. I think the actor did a killer job in that one little moment.
Makes you hate him so much. Yeah, it's so good.
He's a great character, and the actor kills it.
Yep.
I'd have to say for me, it was the scene with Alex bringing the whole thing. We've got, there's this distress signal, that it was more the sequence that from there to Prax making that call, to let's help them, especially that conversation between Prax and Amos after the decision's been made as they're locking everything down. I just think it was really good. Prax had that line, you've all risked so much to help me. How could I do any less? And I'm just like, this is why I love Prax. So.
Now for me, it'd be that in the scene with Amos and Prax talking,
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of going towards Amos, but then what Prax said to him.
Mm-hmm.
That was cheap.
Now, is this the one where Amos says to Prax, they're talking about May,
Mhm.
and Prax says, who has she, or, yeah, who has she got left if he gives up on her?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful, beautiful scene in front of the wall of green.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So Max, you might win on this because one of the authors, Ty Frank, in an interview that he did, said that of all the scenes that he's written for Amos specifically, this was his favorite. So
That's cool.
Nice.
yeah,
That's awesome.
I just, the relationship between Prax and Amos just gives her some beautiful scenes. You know, it's a great thing to read, listen to, and watch. You know,
yeah,
in both mediums.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and it's so fascinating. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Mitch.
and the interesting thing is that they explore it so much better in the on the screen than they do in the book. They really bring that relationship between the two of them to the fore, whereas the book doesn't. I mean, it kind of, but not really explores it.
It's subtle in the books.
Right.
It's subtle in the way that everything about Amos is very subtle and nuanced. Yeah.
He wasn't too subtle when he was probing Prax about the whole daughter thing with
the accusations
yeah,
from the wife, the ex-wife.
yeah.
No, he wasn't subtle there.
But that's a show thing. That's not a book thing.
Well, no, in the book.
No, that's the book. That was in the book because they don't deal with the whole public. Hey, we need help financing the searching for May. That's only in the book.
Oh well,
Those accusations from the ex-wife about what Prax supposedly did.
Yes, and yes, you're correct. But that's because Amos is just like, and then when he finds out it's not a thing, he's like, okay, cool. But he was about to rain hellfire and damnation because he is like, Amos, even though he doesn't really have a moral core, he does have a certain level of a moral core. And you don't fuck with kids.
He knows there are certain things that are wrong.
And that's what I was saying.
He knows certain things are right.
And that's what I was saying, was that he was probing Prax at that one point in the books.
He was giving Prax he was giving him an opportunity to come clean in a very calm way, which is super fucking scary.
I feel like if Prax had said the wrong thing, he'd been paged.
Oh yeah, no, he would have been
neck, not the airlock.
So hard. Yeah, actually, he wouldn't have even taken the time to do the airlock. Like, his neck would have just been instantaneously broken.
Yeah. And I love how Amos just comes to the point and says, "Oh, okay," and leaves it at that once he's convinced.
And
says nothing else.
Prax even asked if I answered that differently, and Amos is like, "Don't worry about it."
Yeah.
Like, Prax realized
because he literally says, I'd have broken your neck and threw you out the airlock. You know, it was literally his response.
Exactly. Broken the neck first, like I said. Don't even wait to space him. Like, you don't have to
Amos is one of those. I think Amos is one of the most complex characters I know, and not just in the show or the books, but in science fiction in general. If not anything I've read or watched, he is not an easy character to explain, and he couldn't have been an easy character to play. Let's chat.
Yeah, well, and I know we brought this up on the show before, but Wes Chatham was one of many people who auditioned for this, but was one of two people who read the lines correctly and understood, and had not even read the books, but understood it, and that they're like, yes, you're the person for this character. and then continued having an in-depth concept of who the character was, even though writers and directors there's a podcast called Ty and That Guy. It's literally Ty Frank, one of the authors of the books, and Wes Chatham, who is that guy. And when they talk about Amos, it's really interesting, and the mentality that Wes Chatham has bringing it, and we said, like, there's not a lot of Amos in this episode, but he is just such a constant presence, and there's a reason he's such a favored character. Is like, he's super people are complicated, and he is super complicated. And I think a lot of us just identify with, like, yeah, no, there's fucked up things that happen in my life. And yes, I can't, like, and maybe I don't know how to deal with it, but I know somebody who can help me deal with it. And I'm just going to, like, listen to what he or she said, or they.
So I do have to wonder, how much did the actor Amos influence the books at a later point? Because, like, looking at the dates, the show started in 2015, and
they had 2 books after.
Yeah.
Well, probably a lot.
Yeah, one thing that comes to mind when you were talking about Amos and That Guy, in book 2, when the crew is kind of, or Holden calls a meeting, and they're trying to figure out, are we going to be a corporation, LLC? You know, what are we going to do here? And
let's get married.
And they're talking about who's going to do what, and everyone basically says, "Well, you're going to be the captain," and that is the point where Amos says, "You are that guy," and I think they may have taken that and used it in a later episode, which leads to the name of their podcast as well. So I thought that was very, and that was something I did not pick up on until I did a reread after watching the series. And you have that whole That Guy issue, which we won't go into depth now.
Right.
Sorry.
See, I never read the books until I had seen all 6 seasons. I watched every before I ever read the books. In some ways, the books, I prefer the books, but there are some things I like about the show better.
Me too.
That's funny. I'm almost the opposite. I mean, I've been through the books a couple times, and I'm doing. I'm rereading for the sake of this podcast. But I was absolutely thrilled when this came out, and yes, I'm living through the differences. Although I will admit, I didn't read book 6 before I saw season 6. So there is that. Okay. But I was just absolutely thrilled with how they were presenting it, and what they had to do to condense, and all the backstories that we never get in the book.
Yeah.
I had never even heard of the books. I hadn't been reading much for a few years at this point. I found out about the show because Chad L. Coleman was leaving The Walking Dead to come and be a secondary star as Fred Johnson. And I had been watching The Walking Dead like all the time back then.
Get the fuck out! He's in The Walking Dead. I did not know that.
Yes. Like 2 or 3 seasons. And I really liked his character on there.
He's so
good. That's what told me that there's a new Sci-Fi Channel show called The Expanse. What's this? And based on books. Oh, okay, cool. Then I gave it a shot, and I ended up liking it.
I didn't even start watching it until it was on Amazon, and then I was just like, "Oh yeah, like there's a little sci-fi and everything." Okay, I started watching it, and I got obsessed immediately. Shocker. And I was, when I was texting with my dad, I was like, because he and I are very sci-fi nerdy things specifically
cool.
sci-fi. Yeah. Together. And he's like, yeah, no, there's a book. He's also actually, for all of you who love this, read the trilogy. It's called the Red Mars trilogy. So basically it's written in the 70s by author Kim Robinson.
Kim Stanley
Robinson. Yes. And she, I think there's a lot of inspiration there because there's like, oh God, what is the komonasai? It's a Japanese term, but they use it multiple times in the books. Like there's a lot of like where the Mars origins. I think the James S.A. Corey teams, I feel like they build a lot on what Kim does. And it's fascinating. So good. It's written very much in a Robert Jordan style where you follow a single character for a little while. And it is fucked up and amazing. And like also if you like Michael Crichton, the way he writes, where you just get a whole scientific dump. You're just like,
Yeah.
what does it have to do with anything? And you're like, oh no, this is what has to do with things after you read it. But you're just like,
Kim Stanley Robinson does a lot of really hard science in the in the Mars trilogy, and a lot of politics too. I was surprised how much politics was going on in that book.
It's politics, it's social, how the society is going to work, it's how people interact with each other. It's incredible. Anyways, I completely brought us fully off topic from this episode.
That happens.
I will say that it took me a couple attempts to watch the first season of The Expanse. And it wasn't until I got to the season finale, I'm like, oh, I need to watch the rest of this.
Well, when I recommend it to people, I usually tell them you have to kind of go through the first three, and if the fourth one doesn't get you, you're not going to be gotten.
The fourth episode of the first season?
Yeah. That's after they've fully ensconced in the Rocinante, and they get contacted by Fred. That's
gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't hooked. I wasn't hooked until basically the what do you call it? Yeah, like the engine room.
Which that's in a couple of episodes that's coming.
No, I think he means when the protomolecule on Arrows.
Yeah, on the first season.
Oh.
Yeah.
Probably when they found Julie.
Yeah. And then
okay, and her hotel.
When you actually when you have the actual Arrows stuff going on, that's where I got it.
Okay.
Vomit zombies.
The first time around. Yeah.
So did everybody share what scene there was their favorite? Jen, did you?
I was just gonna say there was a toss up between the two, but I will probably say my best episode or the best scene that I liked was oddly enough with Holden, who I'm not liking after his change after book 1 and after he becomes a total asshole and note of like, who is this James Holden? You're supposed to be based on the Holden from Catcher in the Rye, damn it. This is not how a Catcher in the Rye Holden would act. I'm getting
in this episode.
So anyway, so I was like, what is this Holden Catcher in the Rye? But anyway, so in this episode, it's oddly enough with him, and which was shocked me. But he was telling them kind of about the fact that he wanted to help Prax, and everyone was like, no. And he goes, no. Can you look him in the face and tell him that we're not going to help his daughter anymore? And everybody was quiet, and they turned to Prax, and that whole thing that happened this episode, not the previous episode, right? I'm recalling the right thing.
Yeah, that was this one.
So that entire scene, where at first, because you're not wanting to agree with Holden because of the way he's been acting, ever since season 1 is like not the Holden that you think Holden is anyway, and he's going through his emo phase. He's definitely going through his teenage years right now. So you're like, oh my god, Holden, shut up! Like as soon as he starts talking, that's what you want to say at first, because like, and then he goes, no, can you look at him and tell him that we're not going to help his daughter? And then everybody turns to Prax, and Prax is just like, And they're like, okay. And then
He's like, I don't know what to do.
so I was like, okay, Holden, you know what? Okay, cool. That at least that's a catcher in the rye moment. That's what Holden would say, and I can't help the innocent, or I can't tell the person who is the father of an innocent, I guess. Anyway, no, I'm like, okay, that's back to the Holden we know. So I was excited about that. That was like, no, he's actually in the books kind of going through his asshole phase too, but like that's totally in line in both ways. But still, I don't like this Holden. But anyway, that's probably going to be my favorite. The other toss up was is when they were in the Razorback and Christian and Gunny were sitting there and talking, and they were trying to decide what to do when they were being torpedoed or missiled or however you want to say it. And she's like, let's reach out to Mars. It was when they made the decision to reach out with that emergency broadcast thing. And she was like, you know, why would we do that? And it's like, well, they're going to put us in a Martian prison, so we're still going to be live. Do you have any other better ideas? Because at least we won't be dead. That entire byplay of I love how Gunny actually said, it was a line from Gunny saying, well, why would you do that? They consider me a deserter and you a war criminal. So, and then she was like, well, at least they'll capture us then because we're high priority and they're not going to kill us right off. So we'll at least be in a prison and alive, which is better than being torpedoed in space. So that byplay was pretty good. But I'm gonna have to edge out the Holden making a good point in this one episode, so I that edges it out. So I'm gonna go with that.
We appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, and I was
my favorite part.
I was
my
going to
favorite
add
scene
in
on the
that little sequence. There was one line from Avasarala where she says, "If you're hitting on me, I'm flattered."
Yes,
that line kills me every time.
Yes,
she's got several zingers in that like high G burn moment. Yeah, like
and she started doing that zinger and then realized maybe I shouldn't. Wait, why do you want me to squeeze my thighs? You know? She did a total shift.
Her initial reaction is to like rain fire on people, and then she's like, okay, I thought for it, I my mouth went first, and then I'm thinking about it, so why do I need to, like, and the same thing with whistling is like I
like that byplay between them about the whole stroke possibility.
So
and actually I think that builds off of the book when Bobby first starts working for Avasarala, and they start to develop that little bit of feedback. Yes. So I like that. There's Avasarala.
It's so good because it's so reminiscent of what they have in the books, and like they have, like, if you looked in from the outside to the relationships, you'd be like, they hate each other. But they actually love each other so much, and they understand, like, they're from such different like everything about them is so different, but they not just the backgrounds, but everything about them is so different, but they understand each other. And the fact that, and I think they talk about it in this episode, is they have a common goal, and they're united around it. They know that they're there because it's not politics. It's not whatever bullshit happens in life. Like, they're there because they actually want to save humanity. So,
and Bobby goes on about I mean, we hear it in a later episode too, but she has brought it up either in the books or in the vids, I forget, where she says you need to know who your enemy really is. And I think that's where she and Avasarala start to gel. And yes, I mean, they're at loggerheads a lot of the times, but in doing so, they're also working together, which I find fascinating. I had two more little favorites, if I could throw them out. One was that one line of Holden's when he says, "It's been a while since I worked on a garden." I love that little line. And then one thing we haven't really gotten into yet, we kind of referenced it, but the whole tool chest sequence.
No.
I hate it.
That is
Sorry.
so suspenseful. It's wonderful.
It adds a lot of drama to the episode, but I personally didn't think it was needed drama. But
No, and we've shot it down, but
yeah,
it's still a
Yeah.
great bit of hold on to your seat.
Mhm.
yeah, it was choreographed really. It was choreographed or shot really well, I should say. Shot
It
well.
was shot really well, but Amos only secures one thing. Also, like, yeah, secure for C is not a fucking joke. I have been where like shit is like if you don't secure for C, shit is flying around and you can actually get hurt. And it drives me crazy. Also, Amos would have probably double checked any work. Yeah, like he would have double checked. Like he would have let Prax think that he was coming around and securing things. Amos would never, ever, ever, ever let a minor detail like a thing getting fully locked. So, anyways,
Right.
Yeah.
I have so many like that is one of my least favorite things about this episode.
Well, I'm just curious, when they shot that, did they actually have the set on some sort of rotating issue so that Amos was always hanging, onto something, or did they move him around a fixed set? Any ideas?
Yeah.
Or do you know?
I think the set rotated. I actually think that they built a temporary set or moved what they had onto something that'll roll, can roll so that he'd be hanging upside down.
Mm.
And that, which means that, Terry Chen wouldn't have been sitting and he would have been strapped into a chair upside down for those shots where you could see him there, or whoever they had in the suit, because, could easily have been a stunt performer playing both of them when you don't see their face.
Did
Yeah,
Leigh have any?
shit,
Did you have any scenes?
So I go back and forth between two, and they're both Anna based. One is it's basically when she's lecturing people, which I love. One is when Aaron Wright is asking her to help and trying to make a Lincoln quote, President Lincoln, and
sorry about
and she says, Lincoln wished that he was on God's side.
Right.
And just complete like, and you can see the Secretary General just like, oh yeah, see, this is why I need you on my team, because you make me sound better. Because he's like, I'm trying to do God's work. And anyways, the second one is when she's at the like having dinner with the Secretary General, and they're all off scheming, doing their things, and then they all come to the table. Aaron Wright sits across from her, is challenging her, and they're talking about prosecuting Mal's children. And the children have done nothing wrong. So Claire has done nothing wrong. None of the other siblings have done anything wrong. And she just schools them and says, Aaron Wright tries to justify the prosecution in the terms of war. And she's like, this is still a war crime.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody else can say anything. And like, you can see everybody's uncomfortable. And then the Secretary General makes like a flippant comment, but they're all like, okay.
And actually, during that little bit, the Secretary General, when he makes these little comments, is so condescending.
He is
that I don't know.
condescending.
I have no idea how the character Anna doesn't blow up at him, but she keeps her cool. But he is just. They demonstrate how big an ass he is early on. I love
Oh yeah,
it.
for sure.
I don't know
Yeah.
who I dislike more, Sorrento Gillis or Aaron Wright. Aaron Wright's an evil bastard, but Sorrento Gillis, he's just always got this look on his face that I want to smack. You know, I want to smack that look off his face. And I'm not a violent person, but
Bobblehead.
he looks like he's he looks like he's got this smug smile that he's constantly trying to suppress. And it's just like,
well, and he knows he has great, like he's rolling nat 20s on charisma all the time. So like whatever he's gonna say is gonna convince somebody, but he just needs to like get the right bard behind him, and that is why he has invited Anna into his group, is to like make sure that his nat 20s are going in the right direction.
PR.
And that is what happens in this episode, and like other things happen in a different episode. So not going there yet.
What's next, Max?
Okay. Our next question is, how did the quality of the cinematography, special effects, sound effects, and music affect this episode? It should be a quick one.
It was perfect, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the space CG.
Yeah, like the whole thing with the Razorback, I was like, oh, that's the Razorback. That's the Razorback. Like, you see it? Chris is like, no. I'm like, you didn't see it painted on the side? He goes, no. And then they showed another thing. He goes, oh yeah, I see it. I'm like, what do you mean? Oh yeah, you see it? It's a Razorback. Damn it. It's awesome.
They
You
mentioned
love
it
that
multiple
shit.
times.
I love
Somebody likes the Razorback.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Can't take the Razorback.
The Razorback. yeah.
My
as
dad's in the middle of season 2.
Yeah.
And as far as practical effects go, I think the interior work that was done on the Razorback, you know, the gimbaling and the whole 9 yards, I thought nicely
so
done.
good.
You know, it's not cinematography and such, but it's certainly set design and killer
It's
job.
production end.
Yeah, I want that shit.
My only complaint production end is the one I brought up about the way the seats that Amos and Prox were on. Those seats just should never have been designed facing each other like that. So it just doesn't make sense. That's my biggest complaint. My only complaint.
I liked the costuming contrast with Anna, and basically anytime she was with the UN. So the UN has these very dark styled, even the people who personally like Aaron Wright chooses to go all black, and she has black pants, but when you see her, it's mostly torso up and it's this white blouse. So you see these contrasts between what their point of view is and hers. And then at that dinner scene specifically, the Secretary General has a black vest over a white. So you can see like that he's like, they're visually telling you that he's morally conflicted between what to do. So it's very interesting. I also liked the music for Anna. It was it's for me, I love Tibetan singing bowls. It's kind of what I fall asleep to. It's I like to listen to tracks of those from meditation, and that's what her soundtrack sounds like to me, as those Tibetan singing. And then also they have it sounds like bell chimes, like monastic. So there's a lot of religious and ceremonial tones to her particular soundtrack.
I hadn't picked up on that. I wasn't paying much attention to the music, to be honest.
I wasn't for the most part.
I'm not normally a costuming person.
Yeah, I'm going to have to pay attention to that now.
I'm not used to thinking
in the action moments, honestly, like I have no idea. Like they're like, it's always so good. And I've said this every time I've been on the episodes, like they're like they know how to gauge and engage you with the music choices that you just forget it. You don't see it, you don't hear it, you don't pay attention to it because it is completely on point. It's perfect. And the only honestly, because spoiler alert, there's going to be a favorite person that I have, and it might shock you guys. I started paying a lot of attention. So,
all right, ready to move on to the next one? I think we are. Max, you're muted.
Sorry. The next question is best and/or worst actor.
Best actor is the Razorback.
There you go. Oh, Jen's got the Razorback there.
Yep. It's already up.
Fight me.
Good shit.
Not playing on this joke.
And the Razorback had some friends this episode. All those 6 little rockets that flew along with it.
well, the Razorback is fucking bomb. And so, like,
Yeah.
somebody who doesn't know how to, like, has the basic mechanics of being a pilot and then being able to, like, save themselves. Yeah.
It's
And
not hard
that
to
is-
fly in outer space. You have a lot of room to maneuver. I mean, a lot of room to maneuver. You're not going to hit much.
It's not hard to fly in outer space. It's hard to fly and escape missiles and not murder UN
Yeah.
dignitary.
That's the hard part.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
um,
I have a for best actor. I think the sequence between Aaron Wright and Anna when he first comes over and sits at the table saying, I'm sorry we interrupted. I think, and I forget the actor's name, but the guy who's playing Aaron Wright,
Sean Doyle.
Sean Doyle, thank you. He, for those 2-3 minutes, he absolutely kills it. I think, and Elizabeth Mitchell working against him, the two of them are just fantastic. I give kudos to both for that one sequence because it was just, I mean, there's a lot said and there's a lot intimated in that conversation. I just think it's great.
I agree.
Yep.
I'm going with Terry Chen this week as Prax. The guy just see. I said this back when we first met him back in the previous season. My early experiences with Terry Chen were in roles where he kind of played a badass, not some timid little scientist guy. And so seeing him playing something so completely, not super special agent,
Dad,
and playing this, I'm just like, and he was just, not only is he my favorite actor this episode, I think he's my favorite character in this episode because he was the one who chose to do the right thing even when it put him at risk and finding his daughter at risk. So, multiple reasons why I pick him. Character and the actor. Just say again, Max.
That's mine as well.
Sweet. I was a little surprised you didn't go with Amos, but because I'm used to saying Amos.
I said earlier that Amos almost had it, but then Prax stole the scene.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you got Amos's speech correct in the best speech Amos has, according to the author. So you win. You still win. Mine's Anna. So I was going back and forth between Bobby, Avancerala, and Anna, because Bobby and Avancerala have this amazing conversation back and forth. It's very powerful. It's very intense. It's meaningful. I'm not 100% that I love. This is the way Anna is introduced in the show, because I love the way she's introduced in the book. I've said this before. But she is true to her character. She comes in during a riot, boss bitches people, who's like, get this person who you don't like, who's not allowed, to an aid station. And then she comes in and starts steamrolling over the Secretary General, Aaron Wright. Like, she just steamrolls everyone, and nobody can contradict what she says, because she is correct in her ethics and her purpose. And that is why the Secretary General has brought her, is because she's got this moral compass that is unwavering and completely infallible. And you see it immediately. The way they do it is so passive. And it's such a quiet part of the episode. And it's in contrast to these big action-packed things. And it's the perfect place to put it. And it's very well, like the way that they introduce her, the whole entire episode is well crafted around this. And it's just, anyways, I talked for a lot.
That's fine. That's fine.
I'm just gonna drink some
Where
more
we at,
wine.
Max?
Let's see, is everyone gone?
Yeah, I think so.
I have one I don't like that I can add in at some point.
Yeah.
Oh, I also have one I don't like.
Okay. For me, it's the girl that is playing May. Just,
Oh.
I mean, I hate to pick on a child
Jade,
actor.
what?
I hate to pick on a child actor, but she just seems so not there. She's reading lines. I don't get a feel for her being in, quote, the character.
There is some of that at times with her, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Agree.
but she's also what, 8, 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Child actors are almost never any good, you know. So
No, I wish I
Yeah.
could add-
unless the director's really good at working with kids.
Hey, Opie had his bad days too.
Mm-hmm.
Who didn't you like?
Joel Osment
man?
would like the world. Anyway,
Yeah.
the guy that played Sixth Sense, that kid, he did a really good job, I think. But that's
I got the
Well, I
perfect
mean-
response to Mitch here, but it's going to take 1 second here.
Okay.
There. Perfect response to Mitch.
Oh, that was good. Oh yeah.
That's what she feels about there.
Right.
I can understand. I can sympathize. I would.
Who was your dislike, Leia?
So it's not the actor. I think the actor did a perfect job portraying this, but it's a continuing dislike. And it's not just the character, it's how, and it's the adaptation. So the adaptation, I've said this before, has inserted a lot of controversy in the roles and the relationships that the Rocinante has, which did not exist in the books. So Naomi, having previously
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I did not like, because she was like, she's trying so hard. I do like that she and Alex like start to kind of bond, but she is just completely cut out of all decision making. She is just shamed away from everything. And I particularly, they set it up before when Naomi like put Amos down to save the freighter. So like she made a but again, like he could see that as a moral choice. But everybody, like Amos has literally lost respect for her. And I just don't like that. Like, I don't like the way, like, and they quickly in the future episodes, they get past it, but like, it didn't seem necessary. So like it's a multi-episode arc that I don't like. Getting off my
Gotcha.
soapbox now.
I agree.
I got you.
Well, this is the
See, I haven't been happy with how they, the last episode and to some extent this episode, I can't remember what, but it was mostly last episode. They spent a lot of tearing Naomi down to build Holden up.
Yeah.
In the story, because in the books, she's not the one who did wrong and the split up between her and Jim. It was Jim who did wrong. He was being like me, so she left him.
And again, this gets back to last episode, but she had been telling him as he was on Gamamine and like especially in the books, like in the interactions, like, hey, you're a different person right now. And in the books, she says, I don't know if I will want to stay with you. You have a choice to make. And that is his like, holy shit. In the show, it's his realization that he's been treating Prax wrong that kind of snaps him back to his actual center as opposed to
right. And so
I'm actually wondering, did Holden go too far the other way though to compensate? Because I mean, he becomes
for sure.
He becomes completely fixated on finding May, regardless of anything else, even though there's an IFF.
And see, that was actually the other thing that I missed mentioning this last week when I brought up how they tore Naomi down to build Holden up. They took away from Prax to build Holden up, because in the book it's Prax who figures out they've probably got a lab on Io. And on the show, it's Holden who figures out they have to go.
Whole entire other thing. So and it's a compressed timeline. So in the books, it's months.
They've been doing so much to make James Holden the bigger hero, than other characters so far this season, and I don't know if I like that so much because Holden's a bit of a dumbass, and everybody in the galaxy knows it.
He's supposed to be a dumbass, though. That's his charm. And they're making him bad dumbass, though. And I'm like, let's go back to the himbo that we all know and love. Let's go back to that. Like, you're supposed to be good, like to the point of aggravating.
And that's exactly all the way. Even to the end of the book series, that's exactly how he's portrayed. Like, yeah, he does dumb fucking shit, but like somehow
from a good place. Let's get back
from a good place, and somehow, like, even though he doesn't mean to be in the middle of everything, he happens to do it, and then he ends up on the right side somehow.
He loves it.
Sheer dumb luck. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
what's next, Matt?
Oh, our final one is themes, if we're ready for that.
I let everybody go first on this one. Jen, what did you pick up on?
Oh,
yeah, that's what I do. Because I don't want to steal anybody.
Yeah. Themes, probably just obviously good versus evil is always in these, but it's like the greater good. Like, what is the overall good that's going to win out over all of the other minor goods that are going to have to be like put aside to like the themes is like, obviously you have the literal hand of God, not actually, but the preacher sitting down from what we see as the devil, Aaron Wright, you have over dinner together. So obviously good versus evil battling there. And also like just the greater good of just I don't know. Like, I'm really bad with these things until certain ideas pop in my head. I'll probably think of another one when somebody says something, and I'll have a tangential thought like, oh yeah, like that's what I'm good at.
Do it, girl. Do it.
So I'll
I
probably
put a
just
razor
go-
back for inspiration for you.
Thank you so much. So zoom. Probably just good battling evil is like obviously the overarching theme here, and I think that's just like is the big one. And I'll probably think of littler ones as you guys talk. So I'll try not to talk over you if I go, oh yeah, and think of something else.
I have a question for you though. Who is evil in this one?
I
Put
guess
that picture back up, Max.
more of it.
No,
Yes,
wrong
Anna.
one.
Anna. I'm like,
That
with
one.
Anna.
Aaron Wright. Yeah, I probably say
Aaron Wright.
No,
Aaron
actually-
Wright, Strickland, Jewel
actually,
Pierre Mao.
Mal. I would probably say Mal.
Glenn, I'm asking Jen.
I would
Oops,
probably
sorry.
say, so far it's been Aaron Wright, but I would probably say in this episode, I would probably say, well, Mal was starting to like be weird. I don't know what he's doing, but I'll probably have to go with Mal as the biggest evil of them all. Strickland, he's portraying the part of really goofy, brainy scientist that I found a new thing. And yes, I'm working for evil, but like, will anyone pay attention to me? Okay, the evil guy is. I wasn't gonna run with that. So obviously he's evil. But I'd probably say Mal. Mal at this point, and that will probably change by next episode or as I read further. But as I've stopped where we are at, I would say Mal as the biggest. Maybe.
Okay.
That probably isn't going to be the thing, but yeah. If I had to choose.
Good answer. Interesting answer.
Would you pick up on Mitch for themes?
You're muted.
Oh no.
Mitch, you're muted.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
Yes, last week's theme primarily was family and the breakup and how families change. This one, I didn't see anything that tied anything else together that particularly rung a bell with me. So I'm going to beg off on this question.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hard. It was hard. It was.
Max?
Honestly, mine was basically family because of the whole Amos and Brax thing at the end.
Oh.
Well, and I also picked up, family. I also would say Anna and Nono and Nani, her wife and kid.
Oh, yeah.
Which was
Yeah.
such a great pull through from something that happens in the future books is her holding and hugging that pillow.
This is you.
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
Yeah, I love that.
I've actually done that to my niece and nephews. And it's like, this is like I've been on a chat. And it was like it's such a human thing. It's so good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Leah, how about you?
So I actually think the title of the episode, Identification, Friend and or Foe, which is actually something that exists in the military. Like we have an IFF thing that anyways, like beyond what the technical background of it is, I think knowing who is your friend or your foe is through everything. So does Bobby and Evan Sorella know that the people who are helping them are friends or foe? Anna goes into the situation, and does she have friends or foe there? And even within the Rosie, like who is friend or foe within that, especially with the Naomi reveal, and she and Alex start having a reconciliation, so they become friends again. So it's this slow move. I think the title of the episode is the theme.
Oh, okay.
That was my second that I was gonna have. My first was family, and then the friend or foe, who's on whose side, type idea. The one I've got, I hesitate to say it's good versus evil, because good versus evil sounds like, to my head, is like an epic scale type thing. Doing the right thing is what I'm looking at. You know, the Rosie ends up doing the right thing by rescuing the Razorback. Bobby's doing the right thing. She's not only she's saving her life, but she's rescuing, you know, Avasarala, who needs it, because she's the one who's going to, you know, who has the ability, hopefully, to stop this war. Prax, he made the decision to do the right thing, to, you know, to rescue the Razorback. You know, it was his call, and he did it because the others were doing the right thing to help him find May. You know, risking their life, you know, themselves, you know, to help him and to help his daughter. That's the one that just really stuck out the most to me. Anna's doing the right thing when she helps, you know, tries to stop those MPs from beating the protesters. And then when the one guy gets injured, you know, they send him off to get fixed. Hey, even hit her escort, the officer who was escorting her through, he was doing the right thing when, one, they stopped the guy from beating her, you know, and then two, the guy says, we're not supposed to give our names. Give her your fucking name. I love how he smacks him upside.
That. He just smacks the dude on the head. It's like,
yeah,
tell her
the
your
guy's
name.
Mask wide open, just like, tell her your fucking name. I'm just like, I love that.
It's like ironic comic right there.
But
anyway,
yeah, those are mine. So
Okay.
Did anybody have anything else that they wanted to bring up about this episode, Leia?
I do. Where the fuck did they get all the plants?
Good question.
Where the fuck did they get all the plants? It drives me crazy because I am a recent green thumb. I have been starting to grow, but my lavender that I've got 18 of them. They're this big. They're this big.
Oh, wow.
I've planted at least 4 seeds in each little thing, and there are less than 2. Like averaging out, there are like 2, maybe. Where the fuck did they get all those plants?
Only thing
I was gonna say,
I can
seed stuff you had.
No. Like, and he he lost his soybean, his little thing. So
yeah, I think what we're seeing on the Rossi is stuff that was always there in a room, in a compartment that we've never seen before. There's a lot to the Rossi we've never seen.
Yeah.
We know they've had plants on the ship before. It would make sense that they had some sort of
you're stretching, dude. I love the fact that you're trying.
It's the only thing I can think of. It's the only thing I can think of.
There is no reason. No reason. Like I'm glad.
Garrett's got a good point.
Yeah, and Norman Garden has a good point, and he says weeks. They're actually months that are going on here. So
no.
That
little
soybean could have been, reproductively
in the
active.
show, they literally actually that's one thing that is different from the books is like they have compressed all of this into a very. They literally just left Gamma and burned away the proto monster dude and are like, oh fuck, let's go. Whereas in the books they do have months, so in the books that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
With that concept,
I tried to come up with an explanation. That's the best I can do.
Yeah, yes, and there is not a good explanation, and I'm just like, I love it. I love that they're trying to get a healthy, because it actually in the show later, like the fact that they have these plants, they even talk about like, oh yes, we don't have to worry about oxygen as much and because we have plants. Like it becomes a thing.
What was it?
Where did all these this has taken me 2 years. 2 years to grow. Seriously.
I think the
You're
answer
not a botanist.
it's
Mhm.
between season, indeterminate length of time, where it might be a day or two, but it's actually been like 4 months in the show.
Well,
They stopped by
Maybe
Mars.
they picked.
They met Matt Damon
May-
when he was growing his potato plants from poop.
And
They
he
picked up
said, "How about them apples? How about them
there
apples?
you go.
How about them apples? And here's a plant."
Yeah.
And in the books, they actually end up going to Ceres station, or not Ceres, Tycho,
Tycho,
for
yeah.
repairs after Ganymede, and then head back out.
Exactly. In the books, yes, but that
Yes.
is not what the
Yeah.
show
Don't-
does. The show
Don't
is
remind me to go.
literally 1, 2, 3, like immediately they have, and I understand the need to compress the timeline, which I appreciate about the adaptation is they compress the timeline. So it is, they take off from Ganymede and then they almost go immediately into this war like situation. They rescue the Razorback and then go into and do blah, 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 blah in the future, which y'all talk about in the next couple of episodes. Yeah, like back to back to back.
So remember, not only do they compress the timeline,
Where the
compress
fuck did the
travel
plans come from?
Remember,
Because
not
it
only
was
they compress-
definitely not on the Rosie.
They also compress what travel time is.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
Yeah, a lot.
Yes.
Mhm.
they don't tell us that it's been 3 months of travel between location to location.
Mhm.
And
No.
it could be 3 months of travel, but they don't tell us it's been 3 months. It could have been 2 days.
Yeah, they don't give us a sense of time, how much time passes.
Well,
Because from
Most
where they-
shows don't.
Because from when they
But
left
when-
to where they're at now could have been 4 months from how far they traveled.
it's so difficult to communicate that
Mhm.
on a TV
And
show
it's like that
or, a
Game of
movie, or
Thrones.
even a movie.
It's
or
that whole
Star
Game
Wars,
of Thrones
like,
instant travel.
I'm sorry. Oh, well, look, we're not talking about that. We're not talking about
But
that.
it's just,
But Star Wars, how quickly, like even with light speed, like how quickly they get to and fro, and also with anyways, like things we're not talking about because that is a completely different conversation for a completely different podcast.
Yeah, there was something that occurred to me this past week about something on the Expanse, similar to where did the plants come from? That, like, where did they get this? And I'm trying to remember what it was. If I remember, I'll put it in the comments below. After this is live.
All right.
Anybody else have anything they'll bring up?
I'm done derailing the entire conversation. I think I said everything.
I think we covered everything I was happy to talk about.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Leah, thank you for coming back. Mitch, thanks for joining us. Glad you were able to be with. Mitch will be with us the entire rest of this season.
Whether you like it or
the
not.
Expanse. Yep, you guys are stuck with him. And Leia will be back for a couple more episodes here in the first half of season 3.
Nice.
And we've got other guests coming up. Some you should recognize all of them, I hope. So thanks for watching. Please come back next week as we discuss episode 3. And thanks for watching. And don't forget to be awesome.